and welcome to the show, Deepinder Dhingra and Tejas Kapoor, founder and CEO and product manager leading all AI initiatives at RevSure. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Julia, for having us. We're doing great.
Thanks,
Good,
Julia.
great.
All good.
Yeah, great to have you here. Well, you're always ahead of the curve, but this time particularly, I know that you're actively deploying this concept, agent swarms. So before we dive into the demo and see it all in action, just curious to hear some early results, ROI case studies.
Yeah, so we've been able to, sorry about that. We've been working at, building out our Agentic AI platform. And right from the start, we conceptualize it as not one agent, but as a system of agents and a team of agents, or the agent swarm, right? And our key approach has been we wanted to deploy full funnel agents for B2B go-to-market teams. So we've been working with customers to deploy agent swarm. One of our customers is also another Agentic AI company. In more of the business professionals, they develop agents for business professionals, and we help them. They launched last October around, and we help them scale to over 1 million signups and users by deploying a swarm of agents that goes across helping them figure out how to prioritize the right leads, how to improve targeting for the right leads across multiple channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. Agent swarms to help them figure out, do better enrichment of their leads because they're getting a lot of signups through Gmail, and then also to help them do personalized email outreach. And this combination of agent swarms has helped them scale effectively, reduce their cost per sign up, and we're very proud to be part of their journey. They're now greater than 2 million signups and users within that. So that's the early results that we've been seeing. Yeah.
Super impressive. Let's dive into it.
Perfect. So what I thought is I will start by giving a quick overview of our approach and how it works, and then we will jump into the actual working session and demo that Tejas will take us through. So I was just talking about this case study of ours where we've deployed of a team of agents. What you'll notice is that our approach is to deploy a swarm of agents across the full funnel of B2B go-to-market teams, which means that we really focus on optimizing the end-to-end buyer journey, right from the anonymous visitor through to the different funnel stages and the buying stages, through to opportunity, close one, and beyond, right from the marketing motion to the SDR BDR motion, the AE motion, the customer success motion, the partner motion across digital, non-digital channels. Within that, we solve broadly for 3 broad use cases. The first is marketing optimization. How do you crush your ROI? Second is pipeline acceleration. How do you drive speed to pipeline? And third is how do you drive better revenue predictability? Now, this takes the form of deploying a team of agents across the GTM motion. Now, what's interesting about this team of agents is that this team of agents are not operating in silos. What traditionally happens is that if you have an agent for inbound prospecting or outbound prospecting, or you have an agent for cold calling or for personalized email outreaches, or you have an SDR agent, those agents have very localized inputs. They are just looking at a local information of that particular lead, prospect, account, or opportunity, but they don't see what's happening before or what's happening after. So if you're an agent focused on SDRs, you might not have any context around what happened with those leads and those contacts prior to the SDR motion. What did they interact with me on Google? Did they visit my website? Did they go to a trade show, to a conference? Did they attend a webinar event? Usually all of that information is not available to that localized SDR agent. Now, different organizations might try to instrument that context, but our approach has been to intentionally provide full funnel context to every agent. And that's what happens in our data model and our data graph. What we do is we integrate data and context across the multiple silos in the enterprise GTM motion. And whatever I'm showing will be made real to you by this. right? So we integrate all of the data across the marketing motion, the SDR BDR motion, the AE motion. So the marketing automation, the chat engagement tools from the website, the buyer intelligence tools from all of the data, the advertising platforms, the paid media tools, the ABM tools, etc. And we harmonize that data into a data graph. This is very different from the MCP approach, which is very valuable in itself. But what it does not do is harmonize data, do the entity resolution, do the deduplication, do the change data captures, do the resolution at the lead level, account level, campaign level, channel level. Once we are able to do that, what that allows us to do is to put together this B2B GTM data graph that then serves as full funnel context. That combined with our AI learning engines, predictive learning engines that learn at scale. What is the propensity of a lead, account, opportunity to convert to pipeline or revenue? What is the next best action? Our AI learning engines start learning that at scale, and that becomes the context for our various AI agents to take action. Using this approach, we are sure that every agent has full funnel context, not just context about what happened to the lead in the marketing motion, not just context about what happened to a prospect in the AE motion, or not just context about select conversations that the sales team is happening. It has full funnel context, structured data, unstructured data across all of these data sources. And that's what allows us to then become the one secure, centralized platform for deploying agentic AI for enterprise B2B go-to-market at every stage of the funnel. And each of these agents are learning and are coordinating from the full funnel context and can be deployed and configured by region, channel, persona, segment for that enterprise B2B GTM motion. So that's how the approach works. Now I'm going to switch it over to Tejas, who's actually going to make all of this real. But as you go through that, please make sure you actually look for what I've actually just mentioned in terms of our approach. So over to you, Tejas. Yeah.
Thanks, Dipinder. I think that was a great intro. Julia, if I could get screen share access. Got
Definitely. I
it.
believe you have it. Yep.
Yep, got it. Apologies. So I think as Dipinder touched upon it, we're building the most context-aware agentic platform out there, which has all your GTM data ingested into it, in addition to external data that we work with external data providers for to kind of give you to kind of give the agents the complete context around the lead opportunity accounts journey. So I think let's get into the demo just a second. So what you're looking at right now is what we call our agent portal. So this is where our agent swarms live. And each agent is purpose built for a specific task with clear downstream use cases. So we like to think of these as individual agents serving specific functions that can work together to also achieve certain goals. So our agents, now when we talk about the full funnel, we mean that our agents operate from your de-anonymized visitors that come onto your website all the way to your closed one and beyond into upsells, renewals, and expansions. So our agents have context from the top right to beyond closed one. And if we could now get into how we actually build these agents. So we have an agent builder, which effectively gives marketing teams, GTM teams, the power to build their own agents specific to their use case in a simple no-code drag and drop format. So if we could look at this as an example. So this is a particular swarm that we've developed right now. So if we go in here, starts pretty simple. You just name it, give it a crisp description, a tag to kind of help people on the portal identify what this agent does. And so we are basically housed on the Google Gemini model. So you choose your model. The next step is actually setting up how the agent gets triggered. So now we have 3 available options at the moment. Manual is pretty simple, straightforward. You come in here and run it yourself, or you could run it on a schedule, depending on the use case. And what another interesting one we have is event based. This is a real time trigger. So this when an event is completed, the agentic flow gets triggered in real time without any manual intervention. So in this example, so what we do is we deploy our first party pixel on our customers' websites to capture activity on there. So right now we've got our first party pixel as an event source. And within that event source, we've got web visits and form submits as event types. So if we go in here, right now, you can see that now that I've switched it to a real-time event, and it's completely configurable. That's what's beautiful about it. You can set up your own custom conditions. You can set up the exact page you want the agent to watch, which houses, which brings in your visitors or which houses your form. You can select lead details. You can select, country, a bunch of things that actually help you narrow down who you want the agent to actually respond to, instead of it being like a blanket thing which most generic tools would provide. Like HubSpot will give you a response to a form fill. But the difference is that with that response will not have any prior context into who I am, what my prior engagements are with your company, what I've done before. Whereas ours has all that full funnel context living in it. So our agent will be able to say, hey, this person's engaged on Agentic AI before, so I'm going to send him an email on Agentic AI, for example. So I'm getting into the rest of our builder process. So it starts with an input from a user. So this could be as specific as a single lead, or you could go broad enough to say, okay, I want to run this agent for all MQLs generated from the USA in the last 2 days, for example. So we give that range of flexibility, and every single filter within our platform can go into the user to help define the input itself. Right. So, and how this effectively becomes a swarm is, now, we have a separate agent that does contact enrichment that taps into a bunch of data sources that we work with. So you can see here that we've got about 4 or 5 providers right now. You can select the ones most relevant to you. You can select the flow of enrichment also, the sequence. And how this becomes a swarm is basically this is a separate agent, what we call contact enrichment. And now what's happening in this particular use case is the leads information that comes in is going into our own data, getting harmonized in our data model. All the engagements, all the prior touches, journeys, activities, everything is getting identified over here from our existing data. It's getting enriched. That same lead is now getting further enriched from external sources. In this case, it's LinkedIn. So we'll be getting in pain points, an overview of the profile, and key topics to engage with the person based on what they have mentioned on their profile. And then you can see all that enriched information is now being passed down into where generative AI comes in to come and say, okay, I want to send this person personalized emails. Right now, within that use case, we've got guardrails to ensure that the agents perform as expected, and there's always a human in the loop, because we've spoken to a lot of GTM teams, and the biggest thing they say is they want agentic execution, but with human guided intervention, and with a human behind the wheel, as Amos mentioned as well. So this email preview essentially tells our AI to stitch out the email, but it waits for a human to come in and review the email before it gets sent out. And test mode is again a testing interface where you can send it to a dummy inbox. And now that we've selected LinkedIn enrichment, we've even thought about edge cases where sometimes for a particular person we might find more than one profile. It might not always map to the right profile when you're enriching. So we've even set up a match threshold, which the user can decide to kind of ensure that the right profile and the right context is passed every time, instead of blindly pulling in stuff that isn't relevant. And we could even give it a further prompt here to kind of define the use case downstream. So we could say, focus on the LinkedIn headline and the personalization. So this is always evolving. This can be configured at any time. Again, giving that whole configurability and customization back to the user. So now if we go back and have a look at and to even touch upon the outputs, right? So we can have the outputs here, or what we can do is we can connect with multiple tools like Marketo, for example, Outreach, for example, and even push the content our AI generates for those emails into these tools. So it can actually sit within your existing deliverability infrastructure and can follow your existing company policies. So if we make this real with, so I'm going to take you through a run that we just triggered. So we're looking at a particular lead in this one. And if I go in to have a look at the email that was generated. So if you look at this, right, you can see that the agent has gone into her LinkedIn profile, seen that she leads global go-to-market strategy at Genesis, found that ensuring predictable pipeline revenue growth is one of her often talked about points from her posts and from her profile, and stitched out an email based on that problem statement, and then linking how RevSure, in this case, because this is our own instance, solves that problem with our platform. And again, we've got references and things coming in from a knowledge base as well. And again, this entire email format is completely customizable. This is just how we do it. So if a customer were to say, no, I don't like to do emails like that, it's all generated from a prompt which we have in our config center to ensure that, see, if you look here, we got our personalized email prompt. So this gives it all the context that we have.
And if I would just come in here as Tejas is talking about this, and if you go back to the config center, it's very important for agentic AI to be guided by an understanding your brand tone, understanding your business, understanding what is your value proposition, understanding your specific case studies, your product data sheets. All of this is available to the agents. Each of the agents are being fed through this context. Further, if you go down here, you'll also be able to see that there are controls on changing prompts, right? You can define your ICPs, you can define your prompts for your personalized email agent, for your SDR agent, for your social selling agents, for your context generation agents, for your summarization agents. All of these are prompts that can be edited by the company. We are trying to operate in an enterprise context where customers want to be able to configure the context of their own business and feed it to the agents. Further, if you go down, you could do this by the agentic flow. You also have controls on security, privacy, right? So we work in a very secure way. We support PII redaction, no prompt logging, no prompt caching. You can guide the responses and the privacy if you just click on those tabs, response and privacy tabs, right? You have different levels of control. You can look at what brand tone you want. You can do PII redaction for, let's say, you're going to send emails or contact names. So the LLM models that are getting used will never have access to that. So there's PII redaction before it's LLM model and then comes back, right? These are very important aspects for deploying full funnel AI within the enterprise for B2B GTM. Yeah, go ahead, Tejas.
Yeah, thanks for that, Vipin. I completely agree. So, at the enterprise scale, what we often see is there's a specific corporate policy on how they send emails, and that must be adhered to all the time. So, what you saw in our config center is essentially that corporate policy. And now, for individual users, we can enable more downstream use cases. Now, a prime example is this one here. So, this is an agent basically that de-anonymizes visitors that come to your website that's powered by a data graph, and then pushes all that information on those people down to our personalized email agent that understands their say their page visits, for example. So if I were to touch upon the downstream use case here, if you have a look here, I've given it a prompt saying, look at the pages visited by these visitors and send them an email based on those. So I've given it that specific instruction to focus on the pages visited here, right? So now, just to make the context stand out, I will take you through a prior run. So if we have a look here, so for example, this lead right here, Galen Rodriguez, so subject, streamline AI agent development. Now, if you look, it's made it very clear that, it's referenced agents and AI agents because I've given it that particular instruction. And just to show you where this context is coming from, just give me a second. So yeah, this context is coming from our full funnel data graph. So which stitches out these journeys and touch points of these leads, opportunities, and accounts.
We can't see it, Tejas. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So, in this example, like we were talking about agents, right? This gentleman has engaged with stuff on agents, and you can see it right here. That he's engaged with building custom agents. He's engaged with the display ad on agents. which is why the agent has taken that as its context, because all I've said is reference the pages visited. So now if the pages visited were about improving pipeline, it would have spoken about that. So this is how we try to bring that context out into our agentic flows to kind of ensure that each email, each interaction is one that actually resonates with your leads, instead of just the blind mass emailing method with personalizing name and company, for example. So now if we come back here, now another interesting use case, I think Amos was talking about, saving time for reps on research. So this is another agent that we're seeing great demand for across GTM teams, because now what this agent effectively does is it combines our underlying data that we have from your CRM systems and marketing automation platforms, etc., with external insights that we work with external data vendors for, to give you a complete view of this company, right? So if you look at the insights, now this is all external information. This is hiring signals that we can bring in, financials, we can bring in company news. So this is how we're actually looking at bringing in a team of agents for across different functions in the GTM motion that perform these specific tasks, and that can be clubbed together downstream to build complex workflows and use cases that work towards solving a problem for the user. And another thing
I think
on
what you'll also see,
Mhm.
I think what you'll also see is that every agent is tracked. Output of every agent and the input to every agent is tracked. Every agent run can be audited, is audit trailed and logged. The reason this is important is just like in the 2009 or 2008 era where there was algorithmic trading that went wild and caused market disruptions, you don't want your agents that are running in silos to cause disruptions. Imagine agents, hundreds of agents that are running in your B2B GTM motion, acting on millions of contacts, hundreds and thousands of opportunities, tens of thousands of accounts, if not more, billions, and taking billions of actions. That's the scale at which we operate. We operate at that scale and even larger scales, right? You want to be able to have an ability to track all of your agents and what they're doing. Without that ability, those agents could just run wild. And you don't want a repeat of what happened in the algorithmic trading era in the 2009, 2008 to happen with the agents that you're deploying across your B2B GTM motion, because every lead and every contact, every account, every prospect is too precious to not protect, right? And so that's the inbuilt capability that we've driven for this full funnel agentic AI platform. Yeah. Go ahead.
You're touching upon what you were saying, Dipinda, on transparency and tracking. So we've even got a dashboard that actually helps your team analyze where maximum tokens are being used, which agents are most popular, just to keep costs in check at all times and avoid any surprises for teams going down the line that, hey, I've been running this for so long and boom, I've got such a big bill from OpenAI. Well, and like some of the upcoming features on our agentic side that we're looking at is, diving into your campaigns to find who's the right ICP for this campaign. So you could give the agent context on what kind of campaign it is, and it will give you an output saying, okay, this is the right ICP for this campaign based on all the data we have about campaigns with similar characteristics. So, for example, if it was a Google ad campaign targeted at marketers in the United States, we would analyze all prior campaigns with those characteristics and have a look at the ICP, like the kind of leads that have engaged the best, and would actually then look back and predict out that, okay, this is the right type of person that this is the right ICP for this campaign. And another thing that we're going quite deep into is orchestrating agentic flows from natural language conversations. So you could dive into our upcoming chat agent and say, hey, find me these leads. And then you could have a follow-up conversation and say, okay, now research the accounts of these leads. Okay, now write personalized email to these leads from all that research context that's coming in. So we're constantly adding more context in workflows and then pushing all that context down into actionability, such as maybe even writing back lists to your HubSpot or to your Salesforce. So that's how we're kind of looking at the agents from our end. Now,
Great.
I think over to you, Dipinda.
Yeah, I just share my screen. If you could stop sharing.
Yep.
Perfect. So I'll end this session off. I just wanted to reiterate what you saw. First is that we built an entirely secure, centralized platform for deploying agents for B2B go-to-market with full funnel context. We're already seeing significant benefits with this swarm of agents approach that can enable on the same platform with the same context that each of the agents share that then essentially transform your GTM motion, right? This is not really about deploying one or two agents and being happy with that. This is about transforming your GTM motion to boost conversions, improve efficiencies, improve speed of responses, and ultimately improve predictability across your revenue. This is about having agents coordinating and being able to deploy multiple agents configured to your GTM motion, to your account segments, regions, channels, personas, because in enterprise B2B go to market, you're operating in a complex world, right? And so one could try to be the lovable for agents to deploy an agent, but you also have to make it real for the enterprise. And it has to operate in a secure way, right? With different compliances, making sure these agents don't run away, doing billions of actions on your millions of contacts and prospects without having the right guardrails, and making sure compliance around these agents are well taken care of. So that's our overall approach to agent swarms, and hopefully that was useful. We'll stop here. Yeah.
So cutting edge and impressive, Deepinder and Jas. Thank you so much. I'd like to address and build on the security point. We have a lot of enterprise and mid-market executives here. That's the core of the community. And so just curious, based on your experience, Deepinder, for teams that are just early on their AI journey, and when they see this concept, agent swarms specifically, it might be frightening and uncomfortable, and the word transform, especially. So, what would be your advice how to even start transitioning into early experimentation and some early deployments of this new architecture?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can talk about some examples. I won't name the customers, but tell you how different customers have gotten started with us. So in the enterprise, what's important is to identify a few use cases, right? You always start with defining what decisions you want to enable in a more intelligent fashion, in a more personalized fashion. So, for example, we're working with a customer. I showed you a previous example in our case study, but we are working with a customer whose CEO has said, no more mass emails, right?
Mhm.
We want to only send personalized emails with the best context of both first party, what are those leads, contacts, prospects doing with us, but also understanding those leads and prospects better based on understanding their LinkedIn interests or other interests. So that is one very good example of a use case that brings together a practical application, a better way of doing things, right? Because you want to personalize and you want to get as much intelligence into the emails that are being sent. Has full funnel context, is not some agency that is running independent emails, not knowing what's happening in your CRM, your marketing automation systems, your paid ad tools, your ABM tools, whether those have engaged or not. It's not like an outbound dialer agent that is just trying to do inbound prospecting but getting the same results. Because if you're going to prospect on a lead without knowing any context, you're going to get the same results, even though you might get some automation with the dialing capability, right? So that's a very practical use case, and then that's what we're doing for them, right? So build on two or three very practical use cases that are the need of the hour, the need of the business, transforms the way you've been operating, and that's how you get started. Within that context, make sure you have a certain policy. So some of the customers that we work with make us go through an AI review, right? They ask us a whole set of questions. So make sure your vendors and your partners follow the policies that you've set up and then get started. And that's how we've seen more success.
Thanks, Deepinder. And for, the executives planning their 2026 investments, what would be your advice and generally the prediction in terms of the silo GTM, agentic GTM? Where is the industry going?
I think the industry is going from siloed to more connected, coordinated agents. it is going from siloed individual marketing, SDR, BDR, AE motions to full funnel motion. So I think the lowest hanging fruit are at the intersections of the marketing, the SDR motion, the SDR motion to the AE motion, the AE motion to the partner motion, the partner motion to the SDR. Address those intersections because that's where most of the breakage and most of the leakage is happening, and that's a great place to start, right? Yeah, that would be my advice.
Love that. And what would be the best way to connect with you after this event?
No, absolutely. You can reach out to us at RevSure. Our website is revsure.ai, revsure.ai. You can reach out to me directly or to Tejas. Just our first name at revsure.ai is our emails, and or you could just book a demo from our website.
Awesome. Thank you so much.